Thank God it's Monday, because Sunday was rough. I can breathe a bit better today. My throat is still pretty sore, coughing up a lot of lung stuff, but I'm somewhat functional today, but I was an absolute wreck yesterday. So, taking my time this morning, listening to Trust by Henry Cloud, which is mediocre. Yeah. All right. I'm going to go upstairs and see what happens. I don't know. I'm thinking there might be some movement, but if that is the case, it's going to be very gentle, short sessions. Just want to see what happens when I move, and I'll let my body take it from there. All right. I'm bouncing back a little bit today. Ended up doing an hour and a half on the elliptical, but in 15-minute sets. Did some knees to bar and dips, pretty easy sets of 7. Just allowing myself to slowly explore movement, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. It's the 4th of July, which seems to be the quintessential American holiday. Very few people call it by its actual name, which is Independence Day. And I've always been a bit confused as to why we celebrate the 4th of July and not other dates in history. And the reason being is that on July 4th, 1776, we declared our independence from the British Crown. We basically said, no, we're done, we're not going to play your game anymore, and if you don't like that, well, we're going to fight. So it was an act of rebellion, and there's value in that. That's where things often begin, but they don't end there. For instance, September 17th, 1787, a date that not many people know, is when we signed the Constitution. We, some guys way back in the day, signed the Constitution. So we basically gave the big FU to the Brits back in 1776, but it took us all the way to 1787 to figure out that this American experiment isn't working that well, and we need some documents that kind of unite us because the 13 colonies or states aren't really getting along that well. So how do we unite them? How do we find a way to bring these states together so that we can have a united purpose? Because united we stand, divided we fall. Why don't we celebrate September 17th with the same vigor and excitement that we celebrate July 4th? And what about December 15th, 1791? That's when they signed the Bill of Rights, when they amended the Constitution. Took another 4 years to say, wait a minute, there's some stuff that probably should have been in that Constitution that we left out, and it's probably important that we amend those original documents. The Bill of Rights is what most people consider to be what makes America America, those rights which are unalienable. But yet we don't celebrate December 15th. So the day that we stood up and said, no, we're not going to take it anymore, that's the day that we celebrate. There's a parallel here. When I started the Running Raw project back in 2005, it was a declaration of sorts. I was telling people what I was going to do, and I also told them what I would no longer be doing, which is eating processed food. And that declaration got a lot of attention. The moment I told people what I was up to and what I was leaving behind, they cheered me, and they loved it, and they ate it up, and they signed up for my newsletters and watched my videos, and on, and here I sit today, many years later. But there have been many moments since that I believe are far more important, but very few people care. It was the declaration that got people's attention, just like the Declaration of Independence. But here's the problem with declarations. They're imaginary. We're predicting what's going to happen. I'm saying one thing, but how do I know it's actually going to come to pass? How do I know it's actually going to work? I don't. I can imagine it. I can believe it. I can say it's true and it's going to happen, but that doesn't mean that it will, which is why we have to keep amending and evolving. We can't just declare that something is over and it's all going to be better from this point forward. We have to put something in place. We have to test things out. We have to make adjustments based on the data that's coming in. The declaration is never enough. So yeah, it's fun to celebrate independence, but I think it's so much more important to celebrate how this country has evolved and will continue to evolve to become a more perfect union. And perfect, by the way, doesn't mean flawless. It simply means more complete. How do we complete this American project to the best of our abilities? So declarations are a lot of fun, but it's the work that comes after when we try to figure out, okay, now what? How do we actually make this work? What tests are we going to run? What experiments are we going to try? What data are we going to collect? And what are we going to do about it? Will we avoid the data that we don't like? If there's an inconvenient truth, will we face it, or will we just sweep it under the rug and pretend that everything is amazing because we declared it to be so? So as I sit here on this Independence Day 2023, that's what I'm going to be reflecting on. Not hoorah for America, but okay, we got some work to do. What might we want to try? What might we want to take a look at that we're all collectively avoiding? All right, I'm off to have some mental fireworks. See you tomorrow. I drink a lot of water throughout the day. So every morning before I head to the studio, I fill 3 1-liter bottles with our well water. I just use containers that my family has drunk and wash them out and just fill them up every day. So I drink a minimum of 3 liters of water every day. I'm about to test out my lungs on a roller ski. I'm probably at 70%. I'm still clearing a lot of stuff, but I'm going to see how I do. Elliptical, decent. Pulling machine, decent. Roller ski, I do get my heart rate a little higher, so let's find out. That was an interesting ski. It's 80 degrees, but over 90% humidity, so it's pretty steamy out there. And my lungs don't really like the increased respiratory volume of skiing, so I kept it short. I think a little over 6 miles. But my technique is dialed. It's better than it's ever been. I'm having this breakthrough moment with Kruger technique, and it just feels really good to ski right now. If it weren't for my lungs, I would have gone on forever because I'm having so much fun just pulling it all together. Core, arms, lats, legs, hips, it's just all lining up and creating this incredibly powerful force with not a whole lot of effort. Yeah. Exciting. Anyway, I gotta dry off. I am drenched. Kinda toasty out there. What you doing, Chucky? Just hanging out in the sun? You're not scared. You're a brave little Chucky. It's 8:30 in the morning and it is already extremely hot and humid. So I couldn't do my morning listening in the car other than just driving into town. So I came up to sit here and listen for a bit, which I don't normally do. I tend not to listen to books when I'm in my workplace. Anyway, at present, I'm listening to Trust by Henry Cloud. He's apparently a big business consultant, executive coach, or at least that's how he presents himself in the book. And there's some interesting conversations and some interesting discussions of what it takes in order for someone to be trusting and what it takes in order to be trusted. But right now he's talking about attachment style. And I was really happy that he brought this up because not many books talk about attachment. Most people don't know about attachment style research. Essentially, when we're a very young child and dependent on our primary caregivers, the mix of our innate personality traits and their response to our needs, their attentiveness, we develop either a secure attachment where we feel that our needs are going to be met in a way that doesn't leave us hanging because we're a child that can't really think in complex ways. We don't understand. All we know is that we're alone and we've got a feeling in our body and we don't know what it is or what to do with it. And that person over there is the only one that can make it go away or help me to regulate it. So we're not just dependent on needs of providing shelter and nourishment, but we're also dependent on the emotional regulation that comes from primary caregivers. So securely attached people have very attentive caregivers. You also have two types of insecure attachment. One they used to call anxious ambivalent, and the other is anxious avoidant. The avoidant style, people tend to keep their distance. Children realize that they can't depend on their caregivers, and this is not conscious, by the way. It's their body just predicting the likelihood of needs being met, and then an internal emotional regulation strategy develops. And this is not consciously derived by the child, but it forms in them. Their identity starts to form around the prediction that other people are not reliable. Don't use them to regulate yourself. Take what you can from them, but no more. Don't allow yourself to be vulnerable. So this becomes an adult avoidant person. The ambivalent type is hot and cold. I love you. I hate you. Why didn't you call me? I'm so pissed at you. I haven't heard from you in the last 15 minutes. I texted you 20 times. So people with the anxious ambivalent tend to be labeled as needy or clingy. So anyway, he's bringing up attachment style in relationship to trust in the business world and even just in adult relationships in general. But the way he's framing it is that secure attachment is mature and adult, and insecure, avoidant, or ambivalent attachment is immature and childlike. And in a sense, he's shaming people for still being children and being stuck in the past without recognizing that secure attachers are also stuck in the past. They're stuck in a past that was really supportive and really nurturing and really good, and they felt entitled and still feel entitled to engage with people without fear. They feel that they have permission to have conversations and to reach out and to be vulnerable and to make requests. It's not that they're mature. They didn't choose security. They didn't work hard at security. They were simply born into it. So his characterization, I think, is highly problematic, and it reflects a common feeling in the world outside of psychological research. that if you're clingy, you're immature and you need to get over it. Or if you're avoidant, you have a problem, you need to get over it. Rather than recognizing that we all have an attachment style, and it's our identity that is in the middle of that attachment style. It's almost like the gravitational field that surrounds our identity. So stepping out of your identity also means stepping out of your attachment style. For somebody with a secure attachment, this makes no sense. Why would I do that? Why would I leave something so good? I already feel fine. But that doesn't mean that people with securely attached identities don't have any problems or don't cause any problems. They can be oblivious to the needs of others or even to their own needs because they feel good even when things aren't going well. And therefore, they often don't take corrective action. They're blindsided because why would that happen? Why would they do that to me? They're often overly trusting when they shouldn't be. So, interesting book, but I'm 5 hours in and I've taken maybe 4 notes because it's just really superficial, lots of platitudes, lots of good advice, and not a lot of depth or real understanding. So I'll finish this book probably within the next day or two just to get through it, and then we'll see what's next. Anyway, I've got to turn the AC back on because I'm already starting to swelter just in 7 minutes of having it turned off. Then I'm going to go for a roller ski to test out the lungs again. You might hear that my voice and my cough wants to kick back whenever I breathe in, so we'll see how that goes today. What are you doing, Gigi? Huh? What are you doing? It doesn't look comfortable.
She's pretty. She ran for a little bit. Probably wore her out.
Just finishing up an early roller ski before it gets too hot. It's already a sweat bath out there, but it's only going to get hotter. It's so humid. I was out there working on my Simming-Kruger V2 technique with a really locked core, and it completely changes the experience of skiing. I can go up hills that would destroy me in the past. Just trying to V2 the whole hill last year, I'd be maxed out when I got to the top. Now I can go up and there's very little effort. I don't ever feel like I'm using strength at any point in the climb. And it's a whole body experience. Everything is synchronized. And when you first watch Simming-Kruger, you don't see that. In fact, it's taken me several years now and the input from some other top skiers to get me to where I am now. So even though I've been studying his technique diligently and deliberately and trying to embody it as I ski, there's a next level and a next level and a next level. This makes me think of an experience I had last night. It was my niece's high school graduation party. So my sister asked me to bring lots of games and things to do, so I brought my Nerf biathlon targets, I brought some butter knives to throw, and I brought cornhole. Anyway, when I was teaching people how to throw knives, I was showing them how to hold the knife in their hand and taking my time, showing them, this is the knife, notice where the handle is, notice where the blade is, notice that one side of the blade has a little serrated edge, and the other side of the blade is smooth. And I'd say, okay, I'm gripping the knife right here, and then I'm putting the blade in my palm with the serrated edge facing away, and they couldn't do it. Well, one person almost did it. They couldn't see what I was doing and relate it to the knife that I was showing them, and then duplicate that experience of holding the knife. They couldn't do it. In fact, one of them kept holding the knife upside down. And we're not talking just about little kids. There were a couple. And yes, I was teaching little kids how to throw knives because when I was a little kid, 4 or 5 years old, my dad taught me how to throw knives safely. Always use safety first. Anyway, it blew me away, and yet it didn't, because I've had so many experiences where I see something and then I try to imitate it, and then I watch video and it's like, wow, I didn't get that at all, but I imagined that I did. I thought that I had gotten it until I saw the video. So we need so much regular feedback on our deliberate practice. Number one, we have to deliberately practice things. But number two, we need feedback. And number three, we need to be open to the feedback and not freak out or get hurt or be disappointed or be embarrassed or quit and run away because we don't want to see how poorly we're doing it. Like, this is the challenge with a human identity. It hates feedback, but it's absolutely essential to the growth process, which is why I video myself all the time. But just watching children and adults try to hold a butter knife in their hand exactly the way I was holding it after I showed them 5 or 6 times because they weren't holding it the appropriate way, so I kept showing them, it didn't make a difference. Their connection from imagined action and actual action were completely disconnected. Their kinesthetic awareness was almost entirely missing. And this is why it's so important that people spend more time in their bodies and outside of their identities, because the real world that we're trying to save, it requires your body to do the saving, not your imagination. There's one more thing I'd like to add to that conversation. Running never really got me into my body the way that skiing does, because skiing is such a technical sport. Running is rather instinctive when it comes to the physical motion. There's really not a lot you have to learn. So as a runner, you can punish your body, even though you're using your body, moving through the world, which is huge and so important. You can still be will dominant. You can still be mind over matter. But when you're skiing and you want to ski efficiently, which is absolutely necessary unless you just want to suffer, because it's hard. Skiing is such a hard sport. But if you practice the technique, you have to keep getting reintroduced to your body and how it moves. All of the joints, from your ankle all the way up to your neck, you're using every joint in your body when you ski to balance and to drive and to recover. So I'm becoming more and more a fan of technical sports because they remove the will to a large degree. If you're just going to try to will yourself through the sport like you can in running, you're not going to get that far. You're going to be frustrated. But if you're willing to allow your identity, your ego, your will to be subservient to your body and learn from your body, learn how to work with your body, then great things are in store for you, not just in that sport, but in life in general. The more aware you are of your human physical being, the better off you're going to be, and the greater well-being I believe you will experience, because you will be more gentle, compassionate, and understanding with your body and everybody else's body. It is brutally hot and humid, but good ski. Lungs are still not in great shape, but I don't know, I'm maybe at 75 to 80%. Pretty good. Anyway, working on Kruger with the shorter poles, more core engagement, and it's so fast. I love it. Can't wait to hop into another race. Oh, what's that face? What's that face? Another week is in the books and on the boards. And whatever has been going on in my lungs, whether it's just the smoke or the smoke and a combination of some kind of upper respiratory infection, I don't know, but I'm still coughing stuff up. I still don't have full access to my lungs. So, I don't know. Hopefully in the next few days it clears up, but it's kind of stuck at like 75% gone, and it's just staying there. So I'm trying to be chill. I've noticed that on my workouts, a new phenomenon has developed where I'm doing, say, pull-ups or dips, and then I'll take 2 days off from that exercise and then do it on the third day. And I'm alternating dips and pull-ups like that, which is not planned. It's just happening. I don't know why. I still have some weird tendon issues in my left arm. So I'm avoiding regular pull-ups and I'm doing my neutral pull-ups where your hands are like this on pegs. And that doesn't really bother my tendon at all. The pulling machine doesn't bother my tendon, so I've been doing a lot of that. Doing some good roller skis, but with my lungs and the heat, my volume is down a bit. And things are just tough at home. My mom is really struggling. Her attacks are coming more frequently. Hopefully we can get her to see a specialist this coming week, but she's having a really hard time. And blueberry season is fast approaching, so I'm trying to get the orchard ready for picking. We'll probably start picking third or fourth week in July, so not too much longer. So I'm doing what I can to get the orchard in tip-top shape, plus other projects. So I'm being gentle and just allowing myself to do what I can do. No expectations. In fact, I really don't have expectations anymore. Sometimes I have more energy and I do more, and there's a draw, a pull that gets me to do more, not just in exercise, but in life. But right now, that's not there. I'm perhaps stretched a little thin, so just being gentle. But it's amazing what you can get done and how fit you can become just being gentle. That's really what this board is all about, and this project. I never go hard. Nothing up here is hard. Let's take a day. The 7th, I did lots and lots of sets of 4 pull-ups, which is incredibly easy. And my pulling machine A is the lowest weight. So lots of easy pulling machine, lots of easy pull-ups. Not hard, but that pays dividends. I'm not sore the next day or even 2 days later. I don't even feel that I've done it, but it gets me stronger. So gentle, consistent, and a lot of volume. And good things happen. Anyway, I'm going to go home, go to bed early, and I will see you next week.